Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to do a reading. I was away last week. I was in Colorado visiting family, so I wasn't able to come on here. And I feel like when I got home, I felt like I had gone through a black hole and came out the other side. Everything felt so completely different. And I thought that it was just because I had been traveling and, there was a lot that happened while I was there, on whatever levels and that it was just a me thing. But I realized it was absolutely a collective thing, and I don't know what the heck happened. I don't know. And I think that's part of it too, is like, for me, I could be like, oh well, I don't know, I came back and all the leaves are out, I'm in the trees more, and everything looks different and everything feels different. And we're in Taurus season now, and you could think it is just because of all these circumstances, but I think the nature of this jump that we just did is that we almost can't wrap our heads around it, where we're like, what the heck is happening? And things are happening so fast. That seems to be the nature of what's going on. And so the last couple days since we've moved into Taurus, I started feeling like I could read the energies a little bit more. It was almost like, because Taurus is an energy. First of all, I'm Taurus rising and I have Taurus South node. So I really, really love and I feel really comfortable in that Taurian energy. To me, it makes me feel really safe. It makes me feel really stable and grounded, which of course is the Taurian energy. But I feel like that's collectively what's going on for those of us that have been going through this whole like wormhole into the new earth energy, which has felt like such a huge ego death. For me, I started feeling it probably towards the middle of January, where I felt like my life got unplugged, where it was like, okay, now it's time. Now it's time to go the whole way. And everything that is not in alignment with the new is going to be taken away. And so the last 3 months, that's kind of how it's been for me in physical ways, but also mental patterns, or, just all the habits and conditioning. Like, it's just been this stripping and stripping and stripping to the point where, I don't know, it's like just this like huge surrender where you almost don't know where you're at anymore. So there's that black hole energy, and there's that shift where you're like, well, there's so much emptying out. What's on the other side of this, but the point when you're emptying is not to be seeing or being in touch with what's on the other side. It's to be fully present with that emptying. Okay. So, but it got pretty intense. And I know for a lot of us, we were kind of in and out of that. And then especially if we're in nature, right? You're in nature and you're getting all the codes, and you can get into that ecstatic mergy space, because then you're in the new energy, right? If we're doing something that's in the new energy, then we're going to be feeling good. But there was just so much that needed to go and still needs to go. But again, there's always the front runners and those of us that are really sort of out on the edge. We've also been, speaking of out on the edge, in all that Aries energy. So there's that pioneer energy where you're just busting through these thresholds at like a fast speed. Again, the wormhole, where the fire horse energy, right? Where you don't even know where you're going. You're just like being kind of drug around at faster and faster rates. So now I'm feeling this sort of like beginning of this sort of like starting to be able to see and understand where we're at. And so I had a woman, so first of all, I felt like something was coming in, like my body is registering a new energy. So for me, and I've talked about this many times before, it happens with the solar energy. It happened with the comet 3i Atlas. It's like when there's a new energy in the field, my nervous system will start to go off, and it's like my heart rate will go, a lot of like anxiety, or just it's the way my body registers something new. So I had been feeling that, like not. So I'm filming this on Wednesday. Thursday. I'll probably post it tomorrow, Friday. So 2 nights ago, I was started to feel that in my body. And I had posted on Facebook, but see, Facebook is different as well. I don't know if people are really seeing my posts much anymore. Like the energy has shifted on Facebook. So that's sort of that black hole energy as well, where I used to feel a real sort of like, open, expansive, sort of creative, portally energy whenever I would, because I've really fine-tuned my friend list and how I use Facebook. So it was just like this co-creation that I would feel, and there was a lot of portally energy, and I would feel a lot of exchange just in the energetics. I'm not really feeling that anymore. It almost feels like there's something in the way, and I don't know if that's because my posts aren't being seen, and so I'm not feeling as much consciousness on the other side of them, or likewise other people's posts aren't being seen as much, so there's just not as much like telepathic network through Facebook. And it's really kind of sad and disorienting, because I know for a lot of us, so I'm curious if you're feeling this as well. I don't know if it's just because I was sort of not on there a whole lot while I was traveling. I feel like something's changed. I almost feel like there's like like an infiltration that's coming through Facebook, like like how when you can feel an agenda and you can feel the inception point or the agenda, you can feel the energy of the intention, right? I feel like there's a different energy coming through, like something's changed. And so it feels gross to me. And I'm like kind of having an aversion from it. So that's another thing of things being taken away. Like when I was reading at Mystic, the metaphysical shop downtown, I was reading there for 2 years. And then that was taken away, which I was sort of like, oh, good. Because I wasn't really liking having to go downtown, and I wasn't really like matching the vibe and, all this stuff. And so, but things being taken away or rearranged because it's all part of this purification and finding our new way through. And so I did interrupt myself, and I thought maybe I would remember what I was saying, but now I don't remember. So the Facebook, yeah. So I did remember. I'm going to be posting this tomorrow, which is Friday, but 2 nights ago, yeah. So I had posted on Facebook about, is anybody else feeling this? Do you feel like something's coming in? I feel like something's coming in. Okay. So last night we did have quite a few M flares. We haven't had the flaring in a little while, but it's just an M flare. Like it's not proportionate to the degree of like that my nervous system is registering. So I know there were a lot of like kind of like reoccurring plasma spikes and reoccurring earthquakes in different places, and just a lot of things, but something is going on. The Schumann resonance was registering, and I saw somebody had posted, and I know a lot of us are having like the headaches and the really high frequency crown activity type of stuff going on. But this morning, and so a friend of mine was talking about how like we basically have to like fight for our lives in the morning because of all the interference in the astral realm. And so just like waking up and having to like remind yourself of what's real and like align yourself with what's real. And so I was sitting outside. I sit right outside this window that I'm in front of here, and I put my feet on the earth and I put my face in the sun, and I was like, I had the sprinkler on my garden, and I was just sitting there, and I was just like on the brink of tears. I was just like, my God, like this is so intense. And I just had this feeling of like, I don't know if I can like keep doing this. Like I just prayed for a sign. And then I have this little blue jay that hangs out with me in the mornings, and it'll sit in my trees. And I hadn't seen it since I'd been back from Colorado. And he or she came and was sitting on the branch, and I was like, oh, okay. Like I'm like, it feels intense. It feels like I'm portaling through something. I feel kind of disconnected and separate from, or at least in that moment, in moments, because last night I was feeling so clearly what was on the other side, and how all of this like inorganic, like inharmonic energy is going to be gone, and it's going to be a completely different thing. And I tapped into that for a moment where it was clearer than I had ever seen it before, where it was like, oh my gosh, I feel like that's part of that Taurian energy where we're starting to stabilize a little bit. But then this morning when I woke up after whatever the hell happened in the nighttime while I was sleeping, it was just like so dark. And I think again, there's that polarity thing where wherever there's an uptick in darkness, it's usually in response or to intercept an uptick in the light and in the harmonization. And so I feel like there's just a lot that's up leveling right now. I'm seeing that in sessions and readings as well, where we're moving into a new phase. Like there's this quantum jumping. So I had posted about that, just like, oh, is anybody else feeling this? And somebody wrote to me, they private messaged me, and she sent me this message, and she was just like, I feel like you're going to understand this. She's like, I was racking my brain for somebody that would relate, and I thought of you. And so she was just describing the same thing that I was feeling, just this like complete and utter unplugging and disinterest in the old energy. And that includes a lot of our society. And so when I was traveling, and I had mentioned this, I had showed this on a post as well, how I thought to put my headphones on my music. And normally I don't do that because I just want to be more present or more like just, I don't know, like aware or something. But I just like tuned everything out, and I was like listening to my music, and I was in my own world, and felt like I was able to hold my own frequency without being sort of like distracted by everything that was going on and all the different energies. And so there was that, there was that, but I was also amidst, I live in southern New Mexico. So I'm in a town, but it's a smallish town. And then I spend 2 days out of my week in the desert in the middle of nowhere. So I have a lot of spaciousness in my life. I don't see a lot of people. If I do, it's other like consciousness people, and our friendship and our relationship is about sort of like anchoring energy and decoding and this type of thing. And then I do the readings and energy work and distance energy work. And so it's like, that's my life and nature and my kids and yeah, my few couple friends that I commune with. And so it's quiet and it's not embedded in the matrix society. And so when I was traveling and my family lives in the Longmont Boulder area, so there were just like so much sprawl and so many cars and so many people and so many restaurants and so many things. And so it was just very, it was illuminating actually, because I'm at a place in my life where I'm not judging myself for not feeling comfortable in those environments. I'm honoring what I'm here for as a frequency holder and as a visionary and as someone who's holding space and came here for this shift that we're going through, you know. So there was kind of healing in that way, and then communing with my family and other members of my family. My closest aunt lives there, and her daughter was in town from Hawaii, like fresh, bringing her Lemurian energy right at a time. If you've been listening to these, I've been going through this whole Lemurian remembrance, reactivation thing recently. So that was really synchronistic. So I felt like we were all, and my sister as well, who we were connecting in a multidimensional way in levels that we've never connected on before, where I didn't even know it was possible, you know. So that was really amazing, you know. So I felt like we were anchoring a lot of these shifts with the help of a lot of the really old, huge trees in that area, and also the mountains and the Rocky Mountains. And all the water. So there was a lot of that type of stuff going on. And I think a lot of us were probably doing some version of grid work or some version of ancestral clearing at this time. But there must have been a lot of us because of that huge shift. You know, there were a lot of us working on really deep levels and anchoring things where enough of the collective energy had enough of, let's see, enough big, powerful energy had been released that the collective energy was able to shift. And then in response to that, there was a reaction and a whole new configuration. So that's what it felt like everything all of a sudden just went like, you know, like new form, Taurus, new form. And so I don't have it completely decoded. I'm just still kind of swirling in this, which I think a lot of us are. It'll be interesting to see how things play out over the rest of this Taurus season. Moving out of, and again, I started feeling this sort of like, okay, we're unplugging, we're moving over here, you know, since Capricorn season, you know, going through Aquarius, where it was like, so that was around the time where I was having all these messages of like, knowing, like pulling back your energy so that you could merge with and know your true energetic signature, where you weren't diluting yourself or leaking your energy or trying to make yourself smaller so you could fit in to whatever, you know, systems you were in, but really allowing yourself to be and flow your own true transmission. And so a lot of that unplugging, allowing that space to come through, but it can be really isolating, because in order to truly know yourself, you have to be really, really alone, you know, and with that level of unplugging, you know, you can feel kind of, it's almost like we know ourselves so well and we know our signature so well that we can't differentiate ourselves from it, you know, and yet, so when we're merging with it and we're only with us, we can feel like we're just kind of lost and we're not going anywhere. But what I kept getting was that we're like osmosing our own energy so that it's pure and it's intact, so that when we are called back out, which I think Aries season was a lot of like, you know, going through the eye of the needle, and then here we are in Taurus season. So we'll see. I don't always link things up so much with the astrology, but lately it's really been kind of loud. It's always during the Taurus season, that because I saw a video that I had posted last year in my Facebook memories, and I was talking about the same thing, the Taurian energy, although I didn't realize it until later in the reading. I had written a comment about how, wow, everything I was talking about was Taurus energy. You know, I just feel it very strongly. Again, I think it's because my rising energy, one that I'm really merged with, but it often brings me back to acknowledging the power and influence of the different elements through the astrological signs and through our bodies and all that. So anyway, I'm going to jump into the cards now and let them kind of guide me into what to say next. What do we get? Oh, wow. Oh, this is amazing. So Dove Spirit, be peace. So I did a session today, and I was feeling like, one of the things, I just want to share this, one of the main themes in this session, because I think this is related to the collective energy, was like all of her different life streams. Like I was seeing her strong galactic energy and her strong, it took us back to like Tiamat and the pre-fall timelines. And it was like, it wanted her energy to merge with the pre-fall, because it's kind of hard to explain because I'm out of that channel right now, but basically, let me just summarize. It was like all of her different life streams were coming into like a singularity, like a conglomeration, I think was the word that she translated with. They were all coming together. So there was like her angelic aspects and her galactic aspects and her pre-fall aspects and her, like council member aspects and all these things. And they were all kind of coming into the same room. And as a result of that, there were all these things falling off, which is what I was just talking about. All these things falling off because we're getting more and more and more of ourselves, our true original signature, but that other stuff having to get out of the way. And at the one point when I first started feeling the angelic aspects of herself and presence, I had said to her, like, do you work with the angels? And she just said, and later she told me right before I said that, she had called them in because she was like, oh, sometimes I forget to call in, for help. And then right then I felt them in her field, which again is such a reminder that what we focus on and what we intend for or call in draws to us immediately, that it could be visible to me immediately. And so anyway, just a reminder, right? Because that was a huge reminder for me to call things in and to line up the energy, because it really, really, we pull it in, we pull it into our field, and then we magnetize from that which is in our field. Okay, so strong message of that. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because then I saw Archangel Michael, and I haven't seen him in a very long time. And afterwards, I was sharing with a friend of mine where she had just recently, I think today or yesterday, communed with Archangel Michael, and she hadn't in a very long time. So there was this message from Michael, who holds that real purified in his highest form, that purified divine masculine energy. And so he was just standing there, and I just felt like he was like gracing us with the presence of that balanced divine masculine energy, because of course that's a lot of what's healing in our world right now, especially with a lot of the suicides and the people leaving or being taken out off the planet. There's like this call to this balanced masculine energy, right? So there's a lot of attention on that now, also with a lot of the other things that are going on in the world where people are very upset with the distorted masculine energy, right? So just this like kind of longing for balanced masculine energy, of course, that's within ourselves as well, and within the self-care and the self-love and the boundaries and the space holding that we can provide for ourselves. So a lot of that sort of energy of feeling to pull back our energy to come out of the shit show in the world, and on the energetic like this, in the world, and just coming back into nature and coming back into our plants and our stones and things that hold truth codes, and our sacred connections with other people, right? And preserving the container that we can preserve for ourselves. There's a huge message of providing that container for ourselves. And I think that's why he came up in the reading as well, as a reminder of that, because she was going through the same thing where she was like, well, I kind of don't want to do these things, but I feel like I should, and it's like, no, we're really being asked to, again, that maintain and hold the frequency that we hold. If we can be in that alignment with our divinity, then that's the highest priority, so that we can broadcast a signal of alignment and of wholeness in amidst a lot of this kind of signaling. Okay, so I was just witnessing him and telling her about him, that I was seeing him. So we were just kind of feeling that energy together. And then there was a big clearing, and then there was a dove. I literally saw a dove. So it was that thing of like, be at peace. This is a time of clearing. This is a time of clearing, and it's a time of clearing the masculine energy within us and within our planet, the distorted, disregarding, abusive masculine that forgets to look towards the soul, forgets to look towards the divine feminine energy within him and within the world for guidance and balance. And so a big reminder of that, starting that off right now as our overall energy, be at peace, because everything that's going on is about clearing. It's a huge clearing going on right now. Again, we always talk about that things need to be seen and to be brought up on the surface in order to be cleared. And in order to clear it, you have to feel it. You have to feel it to heal it. And while you're feeling it, that's kind of all that you're doing, right? You're in the black hole of alchemy, and I think that's where we've been collectively in and out. It's like I'm remembering times where I didn't feel that way at all, and I felt in the lighter energy. But it's almost like the moment is so potent right now. Whatever moment that we're in feels eternal. There's an eternal now type of energy. So when our eternal now is in a huge amount of clearing dark energy, it can be a little intense. And I think that a lot of us have been feeling that just very recently. Again, like I said last time, which was 2 weeks ago, I don't really have a huge concept of time, but that's because the present moment is so palpable and so eternal. So it's like whatever's going on now, it's what's going on now. Right? It's very collective and very palpable and very like we're journeying through into these next levels through every now moment. However, that reminder of everything is cyclical and everything changes, and so we can always know that even if something feels really heavy, that it is going to shift. And so this morning, after I saw my bluebird and I had asked for a sign, my friend, the one I always talk about, my spotter, she messaged me and she was like, I finally got clarity, because she's been in the same energy. And so she was bringing through the channels that she was getting. And then when after I was done sitting in the sun, I went into meditation, and I was, again, just kind of asking for guidance and alignment. And I looked up and I saw on a collage that I had made a year or so ago, it said, all the world's a stage. There are cycles. Allow the cycles. And it was like, oh God, yeah. It's like none of this is even. It's like the tape playing out of the planets and the cycles and the alignments, the cycle of the ages and where we're at in the photon belt, and just the geometry and the symphony and the gears of the clock that we're all moving through and are experiencing as fractals of the repeating patterns that are found everywhere that we look, right? And they're playing through us. So remembering that. There's been a big message yesterday. The message that came through my cards for myself were a lot about humor, and here it is again, like it's all the world's a stage. We're actors on this play. So to remember that it's not so heavy and it's not so serious. It's necessary. It's part of how things are playing out, and to just keep going, to just keep allowing things to move and unfold, knowing that when you're on the bottom, you're going to be on the top. When it's dark, it's going to be light. And that this is the nature of this realm, of this cosmos. This is we can count on this. It's what's real. We're never stuck. We're never lost. We're just in process, right? So that kind of reminder. Be peace. The Eight of Cups is a card of letting go, but it's also a card of, I think it was the Mother Peace deck that I had, it was an octopus. So it was like you're feeling all the different emotions at once, and that's what can be really overwhelming, where you can feel like you're drowning and you're just this big ball of alchemy, really, but you can feel like a big ball of contradiction. It's like, well, you're cyber blasting it all. You're going on all the different levels, and so there's an energy of overwhelm, emotional overwhelm with the Eight of Cups, but it's also a card of moving on. And in this deck of letting go, in this deck, this is like his scrying bowl, where he just got done looking in the scrying bowl and he knows what he needs to do, and now he's moving to go implement it. He's walking away from that thing, he's going to the next task. So I feel a bit of that energy in the field as well, with that Taurian energy and the anchoring, where we're like, oh, okay, I get it. So that's what happened for me as I was returning from my trip and coming home from Colorado. It was this real clear message of like, you're a frequency holder now. You've always been a frequency holder, but you had to go through all those trials, and you had to, go through losing yourself, and you had to do the human journey. And now you understand why you never fit in here, why it never felt right to you, and why your nervous system was always going off and you were doing all the things you were doing. Now you're holding that frequency, which is our unique expression of all that is, holding that, playing our role, and so it's like the next phase of the journey. A lot of us have gotten our marching orders, and just letting go of the need to fit in or be seen or, get it right, or, whatever that is. It's like completely unplugging from the world. And so the woman that contacted me the other night, that's what she was talking about as well. She's like, I can't like do the whole muggle thing anymore. I used to be able to kind of, like translate and just like meet people where they're at. And it's like, no, it's like that call to like be where we're at and allow that transmission to be the medicine. It's like the whole game has changed. And so the marching orders have changed. And just being at peace with ourselves and what we're here to do. It's like the world needs your unique energetic signature, which is why I always go off about AI. I mean, it's like I like AI when I do a Google search, if I'm like typing something in, and then it comes up and I can be really super specific, about like soil or whatever. Like, thank you for gathering information for me. Thank you for saving me time. But when it comes to like artistic expression or the codes through our voice or our writing or our artwork, it's like, it just, to me, it's such an anathema. Is that the word? That's the word that's coming to me. I don't really know what that means, but to the point of this point in human evolution where we're anchoring our souls and creating heaven on earth through our divinity. So it's always a kind of a shock to me. Even people in the spiritual community that seem to be working for the same things will not see that, will not see the contradiction in that. So anyway, hi, Boudica. My kitty just came up and headbutted my knee. Just like, I'm here. Yeah, are you going to go in your basket? I have a little basket right under my table here, and she's laying there. So we have some Boudica energy with us, my little tortie cat. So, anyway, but a huge message of that being at peace with ourselves, no matter where we're at, and just going through that black hole into the, supernova activation. It's like just the cycle of like death and then the rebirth, right? The death and the rebirth into ourselves and into our true selves with all. And that's what I was seeing in this session as well, that there was this level of transmutation. Okay. And this is what I was seeing last night as well, when I had that vision and that clarity where like all of this was being transmuted. It was going away, and to the direct proportion of the darkness and the hijack and the overlay and the bullshit. And this realm was that being the darkness, the light being the direct proportion to that it was transmitting into, again, the alchemy, the lead into gold, the gold. Yeah, there's been a lot of synchronicities with gold lately too. My daughter and I, yesterday, we were just like, fuck this day. My friend and I were talking about that as well. Fuck this day, let's binge watch a show. So in the show, this woman was asked this question, how would you describe the color gold to a blind person? And she was kind of stumped, but then she was like, well, later she thought about it, and she's like, I would describe it as the feeling of the sun, the warmth of the sun on your face, or, the taste of honey, or the sweetness of honey, or, that kind of thing. And so, then there were other synchronicities with gold, the alchemy, the piece. Let's see what this is. Oh, wow, beautiful. So the Fool. So a major arcana here, and here's that 0 point field. So there it is again, where we're kind of in the void. We don't really know what we're doing, but as you take that step, as you surrender, you take a step, and then the step appears under your foot. So I was feeling a little bit of that energy recently, where I was just like, well, I guess this is it for me. Like, I'm not interested in anything anymore. So I'm just gonna just kind of be here, the Fool on the hill, like doing nothing, and then it was, I don't know. And then the energy just shifted, and there was a step forward, and, but just when we're in that space again, where we forget that things are cyclical and things move, where you're kind of in this letting go of everything energy, where you feel like you're kind of drowning, and yet right on the other side of that is this full energy, which I feel that we're stepping into. And again, it keeps going around, right? These cycles. So when I was a teenager, I started noticing that my life has always been very feminine and cyclical. And so I would notice that after a sort of darker period, there would be, the roots growing, and, like the moon, it's like the dark moon, and then the full moon, and everything is exciting. And then, you get kind of bored with that, and then everything kind of atrophies, and then you have a spark of desire, and then things start again. And, all these things, I would notice the cycles, and I would start to track them, and I could tell what was going to come next based on how I was feeling, right? But right now the cycles are so fast. It's like sometimes they happen in a day or an hour. It's like we can barely track it anymore. We can barely track it anymore. It's so intense right now. But again, the Fool card is a lot about surrender and just trusting and just keep moving forward, and knowing that the universe has a plan. Your soul has a plan for you, and that as you just keep going, and maybe that step is at sometimes just to go to bed, or just to binge watch a show all day, and maybe another day it's to put yourself out there, or to express yourself, or like even every time I do a reading, I'm kind of jumping off the cliff because I never know what I'm going to say. Sometimes there's stuff swirling in my head, but I don't know how it's going to come out or in what order. And half the time that I'm talking, I don't even know if I'm making any sense. And, it's just this huge, like, jump off, catch me type of energy. And yet there's so much that clears off of me when I do that, because I just surrender and I let my soul flow through me, that clearing. So there's a kind of an embodiment of this type of energy as well, being at peace, trusting, letting go, allowing things to flow through you, knowing that you're going to be guided even if you don't know what you're doing or you don't know where you're going. Okay, so let me do another card here. Oh my gosh, I'm having that feeling again where I'm like, am I saying anything So the Ace of Wands, this is my higher timeline card. And look at this. It's like you're in the clouds and you can't see anything. You don't know what's going on. But then your hand with your staff and you're like, your wand of truth, right, busts out from under the clouds. And there you are in this other land. So this reminds me of what I was talking about. I used to see sort of I would vision the new earth energies through the New Mexican sunsets down in the desert, because there would be like just layers and layers of clouds during our monsoon season. And there would be all these colors, and I'd see dolphins and I'd see castles, and I just get all these transmissions and downloads, and I get so fucking high just off the energy and the colors and the clouds. And it was like a communication with the new earth energy. So during the COVID year, I was living down there for the entire year, and I was just out in the middle of nowhere with nothing to do, and all I would do was commune with nature. And I found all these nature portals, and it was like my access into the new earth energy through the desert, through the clouds. And so this card always reminds me of that. It has a real new earth energy, and that on the other side, there's the gold again, and the gold leaves, and the alchemy, and the rebirth energy. There's a lot in this card here, and the swirling, and the geometries, and the restructuring of the earth, a lot with the earthquakes and the earth grids opening and changing, and the reforming of the landmass, and all of this. So there's a lot of transmissions in this card. I hope you can feel it with me, because when we do tap into that new earth energy, it's like it's like what we came here for. It's what we're encoded with. It's what we remember. So this was coming up in the last reading as well, 2 weeks ago, with the dragon's horde protecting the future. But there was like this one center, like sort of like his gem that he was protecting. And of course the dragon had all the different elements. It had so much coding in it. It was like there was the water in it, there was the fire, there was all the different, it wasn't just a dragon. It like held everything. It held that original memory. So here's a sort of similar energy coming through in this reading. Remember, I was holding up the Anjaras because they held that energy too. Oh my God, it's coming back to me. Whoa, what happened? We were like connecting with that pre-fall energy and with that Lemurian energy. And then we just got sucked in this total different direction, where it was like, what? It's like we switched tracks, or like I don't even have words, they crisscrossed and then came back around, and now we're like popped out again, but we're different. So it's like we're remembering again, but we have more because of what we just interfaced with and let go of. Really intense. It's really an intense, slightly confusing energy. Maybe we'll get some more clarity as we're going along, but I hope you feel the transmissions of this new earth energy in this card, because I feel like that's what's sneaking in on the corners now, because I feel like whatever we just did brought us closer. It's like we went through a wormhole. We're a little bit more out of range, because the darker energies and the agendas were feeling so heavy. And that was the thing, like at night when you wake up in the morning and you have to try so hard to get yourself back on track because there's so much interference. One of the things that I had been guided, because I've been having a lot of realizations the last few days when I wasn't sort of drowning in darkness, I would have a lot of that higher crown chakra activation. I was being guided to talk to my body, to ask it to work with the nanotechnology and the infiltration and the frequencies, and to use it for light body activation to stabilize out of range. And so when I first felt a real influx, I think it was actually shedding from the jab. I had a neighbor who, she actually had dementia, and she was stealing my cat. And so I was trying to get my cat back from her. But turns out she had just had the jab. And so there was like all this shedding that I didn't know about. And it was right after that I felt this very, very strange energy. And I'd never felt it before. And I got kind of nervous, and I was like, what the fuck is this? And I immediately heard, this is activating light body activation. And I just went with that. Even though I had to clear, over the next many years after that, I had to clear, because it also activated my the fear programs within me, and the medical mind spell, and a lot of like the aging programs, and the decline programs, and the lack and limitation, the insecurity programs, the medical system mind spell, all of that got activated. I had to go through the motions of clearing that and going through it and alchemizing it. But I had my compass, I had my true north, which was that it was all of these years and this part of how we're coming into this energy is through light body activation and through the reconfiguration of our physical bodies, which I've known about intellectually for a very long time. But when it started happening in my body, it was a whole other deal, right? A whole other deal. So I know a lot of us are feeling that activation energy. Again, I've been having a lot with my with the high heart and the looping, okay? But there's also like the digestive stuff that's going on and all that trapped air. Are you feeling this? And then it pushes down and it pushes up and it pushes in the organs, and where like it's like, it's like it's trying to expand us, there's all this expansion energy, but the bodies are so slow to catch up, right? And so kicking up some of those fear programs as well, but a lot of adjustments in the body, also indicating that we just did a big leap and a big transmutation because the body's registering it and it's trying to catch up. Okay, so everybody that I'm talking to, at least my canaries, they're like, my body feels so weird. I feel so uncomfortable in my body. There's like this stretching, like we're too big for our bodies, this type of thing. And I'm spitting everywhere. I have like spit all over the table. Oh my God. But yes, so that being another indicator that we're stretching, we're coming into these new energies because we're going through another of these activations. Hold on, there was something else that I was saying. The light body activation and talking to the body, talking to the nanotechnology in our bodies, right? So that was the thing, that was the message that I got, that this is part of light body activation because our souls knew what we were coming for. Again, we knew what we were coming for. We knew what we were up against. When we're swarming in this, our humans don't know, but our higher selves do know, okay? And so we knew what we were going to be interfacing with. We knew the level of distortion and inharmonics and fragmentation that we were going to be dealing in. Of course, we're awakening now. We're coming out of fragmentation. We were so immersed in it before. We didn't have that higher vision, or if we did, it's like we kind of had to like leave the body or take a journey or a trip to go get it, this type of thing. We're much more awakened now. We're much more awakened. Our light bodies are activating and activated and more to greater and greater degrees. So we're capable of handling these interferences, these technologies, these rogue signals that are jamming us. And because even the stargates and the earth grids are opening. So our energy centers within ourselves. So is our DNA. It's all fractals of the same thing. So there's this great awakening. So yes, it's very intense. Yes, there are huge overlays and interference and astral, entrapping systems and all this. Yet our light is proportionately as great. It's not like just the dark is greater. So is the light, and so is our access. And so we're equipped for this. And so this light body activation that we're going through, again, we're creating our realities. So what I was talking about in the session where when she called in the angels, I immediately saw them in her field, right? What we focus on and what we call forth is what we bring to us. There's physical proof of that. I see it all the time in these sessions, energetic proof, but still it's pretty physical. And that reminder that we can use our mind and our focus and our invocation to shift and create our realities. And so that being just a reminder in terms of a lot of the darkness that's sort of descending on us right now, that can really make it hard for us to remember and to align with this energy, which is the point of it, to separate us from that, but it cannot. So just that reminder to ask for assistance, ask for assistance, ask for guidance, ask for clarity, ask for supports, every day, several times a day, but also to work with the that which is infiltrating you, to talk to it and to say, hey, we're going to do it differently. It's like AI can be programmed. So we can use the AI that's locked in our body that's causing disturbance and reprogram it and say, hey, I did this when I went on antibiotics once. So the first time I had been on antibiotics in 30 years or something like that. And as I was sleeping, I was having all these like horrible like visions in my mind of these like big muscle men that were just like lifting up cars, or like, there was like also like gross, like masculine energy distorted going on. And I was like, oh my God, because the antibiotics are so strong, and it's like, that was their, inception point, the intention behind it to be really strong and to like, bulldoze in and to take care of things. And it was just, I couldn't handle the energy of it. So I basically said to it, I'm so grateful for your strength, and I'm so grateful that you're going to help me me with this thing. Turns out the thing wasn't even, that was a whole illusion. I didn't even need the freaking antibiotics. It was just a trial and an initiation because I was told I had a staph infection, but I actually didn't. But anyway, it was still a good experience for me. But so I felt that I needed this to help me get this out of my body. But so I was working with it, and I was saying, but we need to bring the feminine polarity in. You also need to have flow, and you need to have attunement to your surroundings, and you need to, we need to work together. We need to bring things into unity while we're battling, right? So it was again, just always working with those polarities, and the energy toned down, and I was able to withstand it. Okay, so same thing with the nanotechnology, or the AI in us, that has this negative intention, inception point in its creation. But we can work with it and kind of hijack it and infiltrate it and say, hey, there's another way. We're going to do it this way. You're in my body, so this is my sovereign space. So I'm the commander here, and you're gonna be in service to me through this light body activation. And working with it that way, and working with your guidance and how to transmute, how to transfigure, transform, and to encase it with your consciousness, so that it's almost like in energy work. I notice when people have some sort of implant, or even like eyes, like eye implant. I remember one time I was working with somebody, and I was like, what's up with your eyes? There was just like this weird energy, and he was like, oh, I had a new lens put in. And I was like, oh, okay, because your body wants to incorporate that lens into it. It wants it to merge with it, because right now it's separate, and your body's just, it wants that to be taken care of first thing. And so same thing happened when my mom had a breast surgery, and they funneled her tissue up into the because she had a mastectomy, and so it's like the tissue here still thought it was belly tissue, so like it needed to be like updated. There needed to be some sort of consciousness and conversation, like, oh no, you're not belly tissue anymore, like you have this other role now. Same thing with the eye, same thing with this technology. It's like we can redefine it, and we can reintroduce it so that it becomes in service, and it takes on a different role, right? So using our power in that way, that was one of the downloads that I had. Also, another thing that's going on, I know for a lot of us men hang in there, but for a lot of us women, we're bleeding a lot with our cycles, like almost like bleeding out type of energy, and it's really, really extreme. And so what I realized, and this goes along with what we've been talking about of not leaking our energy, we're at a certain point in the journey before we've gone through all these wormholes and these up levelings and getting into new terrain. We were kind of like my the woman, my friend on Facebook, was saying, where it was like she used to be able to kind of like meet people where they were at, and she would like tailor herself to them in service, right? To service them, where we were always sort of shifting our energy to help other people. Where we can't do that anymore, we're pulling back our energy. Same thing with our blood. It's like we clear a lot through our blood. We're clearing, and I always have really strong, heavy flows after I do, like when I got in that big fight with my daughter a couple of readings ago, when I was talking about, and it went back through galactic roots, that we were clearing some of those patterns, those draconian patterns that were still playing out in our families, right? Where we had to seal off and not dance in that energy anymore. So there's that message of sealing off as well, where we're not leaking our energy for anybody, even if it's our children or somebody who we really love and we want to just bleed. Again, the blood, the bleeding heart is like, no, the best thing that I can do is contain myself. So I've been working with that with my moon cycles as well, of like, I am no longer leaking my energy or bleeding my life force to be in service in any way that harms me or takes too much for me. I have my first concern is to contain my own circuitry and my own energetic signature, so that I can transmit that being my primary goal and service now as a frequency holder. And so only doing the amount of giving that is in balance for me, right? And so talking to my body, like, we don't need to bleed so much. And so Laura Hazel was talking about that too, with some of the inorganic moon programs that are going on, and how we're the only mammal that bleeds every 28 days or around, which is the moon cycle, right? We're the only mammal that bleeds so much and so frequently, right? And so just I've been talking with my body and just reminding it again, that primal water, again, the memory, the original of like a lot of what we experience that's been normalized is actually part of the hijack. So once we see it, we can choose differently. And that means helping our bodies to understand that we can choose differently as well. And like, hey, it's different now. We're going to do it. We're going to do it differently now. So far it seems to be working. So we'll see, but just using our power in that way. So there's again that presence, like I was talking about, profound, palpable, eternal now, where so much is possible through the present now moment, but it requires that presence where we're not resisting anything, and we're not. So this relates again to the patterns that of unconsciousness that we might fall into in our closest relationships, where we play out the draconian aspects of ourselves, where we might fall into unconsciousness or attack energy or violence, or even just in our words or our thoughts or our feelings, this type of thing, feeling towards another or towards ourselves. Shoot, oh crap, what was I saying? I can't remember. Pulling back our energy. Oh, what was I saying? Whenever I'm leaving messages with people and I lose my train of thought, I'm like, hold on, I'll be right back. And I go back and I rewind, but I can't do that here. So I guess I'll just move on. I was in a channel, I was on a roll, and it gets multidimensional, and you say too many things at once and then you forget your point. But hopefully there were some helpful things in there. I was talking about talking with our bodies, using our power, redefining our realities. So that's all good stuff. Okay, let me pull another card here. And then I think I'll go underneath. The Princess of Wands. So this is the Page of Wands, and this is that new adventure. I keep getting this card in different decks in my personal readings almost every day in a different deck. So there's that new adventure energy. So yeah, just kind of clarifying that we are kind of in a new land. And I think this new land does include using our power to choose outside. That's what I was saying. A lot of the stuff that's been really normalized for us, and that's why I was tying it back to our families, where things that were normalized that we couldn't see because they were so subconscious are coming into consciousness. Oh, I'm glad I got it back. Once you see it, you can move it. And it's the same thing in sessions. Once we see a pattern, it won't move until I say it out loud. Once both of our consciousnesses are on it, then it will move and it will unravel. So it's the same thing with when we're identifying patterns within our family or within our habits or our habits of thinking. So that's this as well. You can feel like you're kind of like locked in a cycle or a pattern. But once you see it, if you just take one step differently, the universe is going to catch you and it's going to take you forward on a different adventure. So I think there's a lot of potential in the energies right now for doing things differently. I know a lot of us have been feeling that we were just sort of at a dead end and kind of stuck, and that we were never going to get out of it. That's where that Archangel Michael energy comes in, and like be at peace. It's going to transmute, and then you're going to be in this whole other energy, this whole other path, which is this kind of energy, which is what we're building right now. Again, remembering to step forward onto a different path. And that includes the choices that we're making, the conversations that we're having with our bodies or with the energies around us, and holding that power. Let's go underneath and see what comes out underneath the dove spirit. I'm really thirsty today. Trying to drink electrolytes. Yeah, I wonder if we've been having more solar activity since the last time I looked. Yeah, I feel like we're getting some assistance right now. It feels like, oh, interesting. A tidy house, clarity and organization. So that's sort of following what we were just talking about, where once you see something, clarity. Once you see it, then you can reorganize things. You can say, no, I don't like that. I'm not doing it like that anymore. I'm going to change my behavior. I'm going to, it's kind of like looking for the landmines, like paying attention to when if it's in a relationship with somebody else, like knowing when their energy changes and when they're starting to slip into their draconian accents, so that you can kind of pull back and prepare, and knowing that they're not safe right now, and it's like not going into denial about that, where it's like, oh, but I love them and we're so close, and it's like, no, sometimes people go crazy and they're not safe and you need to protect yourself, so you keep an eye out for that. You don't go into denial. You call a spade a fucking spade. And it's the same thing with our world. It's like We're not going to deny the fact that we have all these overlays and agendas and frequencies thrown at us. When we feel those frequencies and we start to feel like we're drowning in an overlay, get clear about what's going on, and you know, like having the pathways in your mind where you're like, okay, I need to go take a bath with some Epsom salt or sea salt, and you know, like alfalfa pellets. I had heard organic alfalfa pellets, like for the bunnies. Put it, in cheesecloth and tie it up and put it in the bath with you, and it'll pull stuff out of you. I don't know if it works. I heard it does. I try to remember to do that, right? Just, you know, taking action. Or I started doing activated charcoal now and then when I feel all that sort of like gaseous air in me, you know, just to absorb things or whatever it is. Just remembering your tools, remembering to, you know, just call a spade and take action on it, that type of thing. Okay, so at the same time being at peace. It's like, it's okay. It's okay to look at these darker aspects. We don't have to, you know, because we can be seeing this higher thing and then sort of like going into that without being in the present moment, seeing what's actually happening right now in this present moment, right? This is birthing, yes, but it's like we also got to realize and you know, step up to the plate. It's like that whole thing, like if you're gonna walk through hell, walk through it like you own the place. You know, it's like walk through it with eyes wide open, you know. And it's like we are in hell right now. It's like this whole like crazy shit show going on, and yet we can be in peace in that, because again, all the what was it? All the world's a stage. All the world's a stage, and there are cycles. Let the cycles. We're coming out of a dark age. It's like, let this part play out. Like, it's okay. Like, be present with it. See it for what it is. Don't go into resistance or denial or, you know, just wanting it to end or, oh, I can't do this, which is how I was this morning. You know, I was just like, I don't know if I can do another second of this. So I need help. You know, that's when I took that action. You know, I had the clarity of my own emotional state of mind and called forth, you know, and then the answers started coming, the clarity started coming. I also think there's a divine timing to that. I think when we forget to ask, it's because we're meant to be in an alchemy, and they're not going to come anyway because you're meant to be crunched. But when you start to remember, and that message of starting to ask, which I think is now, that's when the energy is conducive to that, because we are moving into a different, you know, this kind of new adventure, right? This new adventure. Also anchoring this energy as we're walking it forward. This is a very walking forward, one step at a time. You know, that Taurian energy. You know, like be clear. And then ask for assistance. If you don't have the clarity, take that next step, walk it forward. We're anchoring this energy. We're starting to shift into a different energy. Whew, you know, we're not just like burning on fire here, you know. Let's see what comes out underneath the 8 of Cups. Oh, okay. Gathering around the power of community. So yeah, and that's why I came on here today, because I didn't have time last week because I was traveling and I was away and I didn't have my cards and stuff like that. But also when I got back, I just didn't feel like doing a reading. I just didn't want to. I was in, you know, I was in this space, you know, I was kind of in this space, but now feeling the energy to come forward and see what comes up in case it's helpful for anybody else, but also putting our consciousness together, anchoring this energy. Because when me and that woman, and we were sharing with each other, and I was like, oh my God, thank you. Because I was laying in bed and I couldn't sleep. That was the night that a lot of us couldn't sleep. So that was, let's see, today's Thursday. So it wasn't Wednesday night, it was Tuesday night. A lot of us, I heard, were just like up and feeling really, really weird. So I couldn't sleep, and I just felt really guided to get up and check my phone. I felt like there was a message for me, and there was, and it was from her. And so I told her that, and I was like, oh my God. It was like she had sent it 4 minutes before I got out of bed. And so we just communed, and we felt like finally that energy was shifting. And then we came on that reminds me of something else. We came on the Taurian energy. We felt like we were anchoring together, and that it was a sign that things were starting to shift. I also have a friend, one of my friends here in town, and I mentioned her before. We have a really strong Lemurian connection, and we feel really, really good. We get into this energy. So we're not allowed to see each other a lot because it would be like kind of like escaping. But every time her and I commune, I know that there's been a shift, that we're coming out of sort of like a darker alchemical passage. And so last night I woke up in the middle of the night and I just thought of her. I was just like, oh, And I thought of her. So I wrote to her this morning. She said last night she almost called me, but it was too late. And I haven't talked to her in weeks, maybe even over a month, because she has had some news. There were some developments in her life. She was like, I was going to call you, but I thought it was too late. And so me thinking of her and then writing was confirming for her for the steps that she was taking, so there was all this like spirit weaving. But every time I'm able to commune with her, I know that it means something's shifting. So there was that confirmation as well. Just remembering that. Okay. So the same night that I was talking with, gathering with the community, that's when things are starting to shift, right? When you're in an isolated period and you're doing your work, and then all of a sudden the people start coming in, your support team starts coming in. It's like, okay, it's confirmation that the shift is happening. So another woman had, it was another woman that responded when I was like, is anybody else feeling the shift? And there were only like 2 people, I think, but one of them wrote, and her and I have done readings and sessions together, and she's become a kindred spirit. And so she was telling me about Sedna, which I didn't know. I knew who she was, but I didn't know how. It must be some astrological thing that's going on right now. I haven't been following the astrology. I think I need to, because it's very helpful in times like these. But she was talking about Sedna and this aspect of Sedna. And she said, we can't hold on because Sedna's own father cut her fingers off. And so there's that letting go, where it was like that message of like, oh, okay. So that's, again, what me and the other woman were talking about, how like and in the session today as well, how we're letting go of society. We're letting go of everything, but it's a little bit scary because you don't know what happens to you. You don't know, if you're going to make it to this land, like maybe you just, lose your social ability and you just like become a hermit, and then like you can't do anything anymore, right? Those kind of thoughts. It's like, is it safe to get this far away? And the first message that came up in the session for this woman, because she was in the same energy, was like, there's a message in that pullback, in that darkness. There's a reason why you're being guided to that. You're not just losing your mojo or falling off the face of the earth and like going into crazy town. It's like, no, there's a reason. It's like depression, deep rest, depressed, deep rest, right? Deep rest, but also the soul retrieval that's coming in. And what I was seeing in her were all of her aspects were coming back into the singularity. It's like, we're being called to empty out so that we can receive ourselves, empty out of the world so that we can receive ourselves. And yet in this moment, we're gathering around, and it seems like there's something that we've been doing that for me. Again, I started feeling it mid-January, and it's been, kind of off and on, but the last, I don't know. I mean, I at the same time, I was just in Colorado visiting family and like super social, but I was still in that energy. I was still in that kind of like pull back energy at the same time, but I feel like there's a big passage that a lot of us have been doing, and that it's important. And again, you can't hold on. You can't hold on. And the symbolism with Sedna and the cutting off of fingers, her father cut off her finger. You can't hold on. Like, it's safe. That's the message that I got from it. It's you have to let go. You have to let go, but also it's safe to let go. Like, be at peace, because these cycles are important, and everything that we're feeling is important, and that we're being guided. We're being guided to let go. We're being guided to walk away. We're being guided to go into the whirlwind of all our contradicting feelings and aspects, because there's alchemy in there. There's gold in there, right? There's gold in there, and on the other side of that is this next step that we're taking, So, but again, sometimes that next step is to pull back your energy and to do nothing and to say no to everything. And like this woman, she was going to do this thing she didn't really want to do, but her lower back was hurting her, so she had to cancel. And it was like, then she realized like, oh, my back was helping me, it's like, but the lower back is also where we hold all those patterns and those survival patterns, which might lead us to abandon ourselves or to make ourselves smaller, to give ourselves away when we don't want to. We're really conditioned. So that was a lot of what was coming up for me with my family. A lot of the patterns in my family, like Italian Catholic, where you everything's for everybody else. I talk about my grandmother, who was like the Virgin Mary. She was like this Mother Mary energy, but she was also like everything was for everybody else. There was an imbalance in that as well, which came through both sides of my family, actually. A lot of us have that, but again, that feeling of not even knowing what your needs are, and not knowing how to have that container, and not knowing how to say no, and not knowing when to let that person that's struggling struggle, because that alchemy is their initiation and it's their empowerment, right? So it's like a whole rewiring of all the conditioning that we've had in our society, where if you do for yourself, you're selfish. I remember when I was in high school. Well, what was it? I was in college. I guess it was in college. And I think I had gotten, I think I had, I was in college, and I think I had, I was in college, and I think I had gotten, I was in college, and I think I had gotten, I was in college, and I think I had gotten, I was in college, and I think I had gotten, I was in college, and I think I had gotten, I was in college, and I think I had gotten, I was in college, and I think I had gotten, I was in college, and I think I had gotten, I was in college, and I think I had gotten, I was in college, and I think I had gotten, I was in college, and I think I had gotten, I was in college, and I think I had gotten, I was in college, and I think I had gotten, I was in college, and I think I had gotten, I was in college, and I think I had gotten, I was in college, and I think I had gotten, I was in college, and I think I had gotten, I was in college, and I think I had gotten, I was in college, and I think I had gotten, I was in college, and I think I had gotten, I was in college, and I think I had gotten, I was in college, and I think I had gotten, I was in college, and I think I had gotten, I was in college, and I think I had gotten, I just gotten back from Europe or something. And I was visiting with some high school friends, and my one friend really wanted to go to this party, and I didn't want to go to a party because I was in a really inward phase. I was like integrating all these changes that I had made, and I didn't want to go to a party. And so in the past, I would have went, because I just would have went along with whatever was going on. And it was one of the first times that I said, no, I don't want to go. And her sister was like, oh, well, you should, she wants to go with her. And I said, no, one of the things that I learned in my time away was how to not do things that I don't want to do. And she looked at me and she said, well, you got really good at being selfish. And I remember being like, oh God, because it's like, it was such a new thing for me, it was such a new thing. And just that messaging, like always that messaging of like, don't take care of yourself. And again, that's our distorted masculine energy as well. The energy inside of us that abandons us and I see that in my dad as well. Like my dad can be so oblivious to everything that's going on in the room or everything that's going on with anybody else. But when we're at a restaurant, he's really considerate of, the waiter or the waitress. And, he's always thinking of everybody else. And he's always like socially aware of like what, how what we're doing affects them, but like not in his own family, not like we're like really, also matters a whole lot. So just that, like that masculine, like where things get kind of twisted, they get kind of twisted, and that can be with us ourselves, right? So coming back around into that distortion in the polarities, and creating that container for ourselves. Okay, so that was a little bit of a tangent. It's all tangents. It's all channels. it's all channels, which is what tangents are. I'm almost at an hour, but I'm just going to keep going because, I don't know when I'm going to come back on here, to be honest, but, okay. So we get the Knight of Cups. Exactly. This is my self-care card. This is how I read it. Self-love, self-alignment, taking care of yourself, can also be, a romance card, but this is not a romance reading. It's that romance. This is your divine masculine energy, whether you're a man or a woman that takes care of your inner feminine and listens to her. I'm always talking about this because this is the pattern that is just so off in our world. We've gotten our polarities have gotten fragmented, and we can fractured within ourselves, within our world. And as we repair this within ourselves, we repair the world. So that self-care message of, and again, that's how we can take this step and how we can have faith and trust in the universe and trust in our paths when we pull back our energy and we do the things that we need to do. Again, really honoring that present moment, whatever the present moment is calling for, whether it's to withdraw our energy or whether it's to really look at what's happening in our realm and seeing it with really clear eyes. Again, the clarity. And once we are clear, then things can reorganize. Our energy system can reorganize around that clarity because it's not busy trying to protect us from seeing it, right? And that's what I see in the sessions as well. The traumas that distort us because we don't want to see that trauma, and then the energy has to like trickle around and tiptoe around that. When we see it clearly, then everything can flow, reorganize into alignment where we have our true power, That's the power of community as well, and gathering around the community within our bodies, all of our organs and our cells, having a separate role, but getting them all together. There's the mycelium and the elemental realm, and we've been talking about with the elementals in our body and the reconfiguration. So all the fractal levels of the ways of things coming back into harmony once we get clear, and again, the present moment of being present, showing up, and not diverting any of our energy to avoid looking at a hard truth, and then things can come through. Often that's what this is, looking at the hard truths, and then that next step can be taken through the present moment and that self-love. So yeah, that feels really clear. I'm going to do a goddess card now. Let's see who we get. Oh, wow. Okay, Artemis, focus. Wow. So there she is with her arrow, and it's kind of similar to the way this wand is coming through, even the same direction. For also being about stability. So we're stabilizing this field. We're staying focused on this. We're staying focused on this higher timeline. What we focus on, we pull into our field. Remember, Archangel Michael, the angels, what we call in, what we focus on, we create, we pull towards us. Really important message, especially when all of this sort of darker energy but everything's in service to the light, right? So when we're having these attacks, again, using the technology, using the nanotech in our body to activate and stimulate and call forth light body activation. Again, our bodies, our cells, we see this rogue signal. There's some program within us that's like, okay, it's time to up level. This is it. It's go time. That's what I got from my body. I do feel it's true for all of us. When we focus on that and we choose it and we state it as so, we pull back that arrow, that direction. That's what we're going to create. That's what we're going to land. So that's what I keep reminding ourselves. Also, as our bodies with these frequencies and these energies that are coming in, they kick up the fear programs, we can then transmute them. We can transmute them. And if we frame it that way, like, okay, bring it on, give me your best shot, like throw it at me. What am I thinking of? There's something about the wolves and somebody throws you to the wolves, but then you end up becoming the leader. You end up being the leader of the wolves, right? It's like that. It's like, throw it at me. I'm going to turn it around. I'm going to alchemize it and I'm going to use it for my highest advantage. I'm going to use it to catapult me, to catapult me where I want to go, because this is my body. I am God's sovereign free, and I am the commander of my reality. And just using that again. So this is all kind of tying together here. Really beautiful. Again, focusing on that empowerment, on that higher frequency energy, on the magic and miracles that are possible when we claim our power, when we realize that the mind spells and the mental programs of doubt, of fear, of lack and limitation and victim and separation, that's not the true reality. That's the overlay. That's the control system that keeps us out of this empowerment so that we don't create and call forth the realities that help us to create and live and reclaim this energy. So the more of us that can do this, that can have the audacity to choose that highest timeline, I hope that people listen to the end. I hope that I know some people listen to the end. It doesn't matter. I don't need to hope anything, but it always kind of amazes me how things come together in the end. And I'm like, I don't think people made it this far, but they're going to make it for as far as their soul wants them to make it. So I'm going to let that go. Okay, letting go. But yes, thank you for being here if you are here, and for joining me in this energy, feeling that conviction and that power and that decision and that choice that came up in the session today as well. That choice to not dwell on the negative, and even when you are in a clearing space, to know that it's in service to you, and to keep some part of you. We always talk about this, some part of you that's conscious of the bigger picture, knowing that, again, all the world's a stage. There are cycles. Allow the cycles. Allow this. Honor this. That present moment, honoring the alchemical times, knowing that they do come forward and they lead to this 0 point field where you step forward in a new way onto this new adventure being one where we're using our focus and our co-creation and our definition and perception of reality to bring us to this for all of humanity. It's the greatest service that we can do. The greatest service that we can do is to control our mind, our thoughts, and our focus. Knowing, just like I was sharing in the sessions, it immediately brings it into our field, and it can be perceived. It can be perceived, and it's perceived in the energetic realms by that which is a match to that energy, and we pull it in because we're magnetic. We're magnetic, and especially when we don't leak our energy and we get that circuitry going, our powers of manifestation are so strong. And if we choose what we're focusing on, we can turn everything around. And I feel like that's the next phase of this journey that we're moving into. Let's see what we get underneath this. I'm going to do an angel card since that was really up. And again, these are all higher aspects of ourselves. Angels, not giving our power away to entities or beings. It's like we're calling on our energetic signature, the aspect of us that matches that. So just to say that, just to say that, because this is about empowerment. And raising our frequency into the different dimensional frequencies and energetic signatures that hold different services, that hold different clarities, different information that can come through, tuning the channel to that frequency or that level of information that we want to receive. Okay, so, interesting. So this last card that we get is Mercy. So that's kind of interesting, coming out over the Princess of Wands. Well, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people that are really suffering. Speaking of choosing our reality. A lot of people are not going to be able to do that. They don't understand that, and it does take a lot, especially when you're really in that suffering. And oh, I'm getting dizzy. Wow, there's a huge transmission with this. When you're in this level of suffering, and we've all been there. I was feeling it just the other day, or maybe it was this morning. I don't know, where I was just like, I don't know if I'm going to make it. I don't know if I can get out of this. I think I just fell too far, and this kind of thing. So having a lot of mercy and compassion for the world. And it does take a lot of focus. Takes a lot of focus. Wow, I am so dizzy. It takes a lot of focus to pull back that arrow. It's like stopping a freight train when you're in those patterns. And again, everything in the world, first of all, we've been raised in this pattern of victim and persecution. We've had it for lifetimes. And then everything in the world, in the medical system, the educational system, the religious, all of it, is reinforcing this false reality. But now there's this huge spiritual battle and uptick in attack and onslaught that's literally jacking with our vibration and our circuitry and our even the way our energy is moving in our body. It's scrambling us so that we can't hear. It is so hard to grab that wheel at times. It is so hard to grab that wheel at times. So in a moment like this, where all the planets are going forward, we're in that stabilization. Again, the 4, the Taurian, the stabilization energy. Some of us are anchoring this energy down. We're doing it for everyone. Okay, so there's that mercy message. It's like, this is service. This is the next level of service. Even if we're not doing anything else, but working with our minds and our focus. It's the best thing that we can possibly be doing for the world right now, because so many people are not going to be able to do that. They don't have the tools. They haven't done enough of the shadow work. They haven't climbed that ladder, that DNA ladder, where they can remember when they're in the pit. We are that ladder. We are the rope on the other end, and it's how we're in service. We're not leaking our energy anymore. We're not going down in there with them and trying to help them. No, we're staying. We're choosing. We're focusing on and staying with this, and that being the best service and the best. That's the mercy. That's what we do with our mercy. We contain our energy, right? We contain our energy. That's the new adventure. That's the new adventure that we're on, and it's how we're helping. Okay, that's what it is. That's what I keep talking about with people. The game has changed. The mission at one point was to put in a little extra work for the others because we had to flip the ship. Well, now, everybody's shadow is up. Everybody's shadow is up. It's like we were the garbage disposals. We were cleaning up our lineages. We were cleaning up the collective. We were cleaning up our towns. We were cleaning up our partners. And it's like, we're going to die if we continue to do that, because there is so much shit in the realm. It's like absolutely endless. Everybody's got their shadow stuff up. And again, that's their initiation, and they have to go through that. And we can help and support by stabilizing the field. We can hold the frequency. We can set an example, but we can't go, it's like the time of going down in there is over, because we're going to be devoured by all their unprocessed shadow. And so to pull back our energy and to hold this space that we know how to hold, that's the next adventure. It's the next assignment. It's the next leg of the mission. And that's what I started getting when I was walking through all those people at the airport. I was starting to understand in a real concrete way while I was in the world, because I haven't been around that many people in a really long time, what I was here for and what I was doing. And then coming back home, there was all that realization of the validity of that path, and that was the new marching orders. And I think that's true for a lot of us. So if you hung in here to the end and that's resonant for you, thank you so much for joining in consciousness and helping to anchor this energy. Again, the power of community and gathering around and putting our minds on this, so that maybe we can feel a little more stable as we're coming out of this type of huge energy where we were letting go of the old mission, letting go of the old world, and coming into this new step, which is then again going to create a shift for humanity as well, because we're changing the energetics in the collective field together by doing this together. So please always feel free to let me know if this resonated with you, or with a like or a comment, or you know, however you want to, or a message. Also, people will private message me, and I welcome that as well about these videos. Again, I'm not like huge into private messaging about other stuff. Sometimes people will send me just like reels and stuff like that, and I often just don't get to them because I try not to be on my phone, and I don't want to get into that. But when we're anchoring energy and powwowing over this current stuff, I always welcome it, and I thank you for that as well. And like that woman the other day where it was like, okay, let's like really face this and work on this together. And I love the community. So I hope that Facebook, I hope that it can continue to be a really positive ascension tool for us the way it has been. I hope that it's not too far gone. This is the first video that I'm going to be putting out since I really felt that shift in energy. So hopefully, yeah, hopefully I'll feel some of you on the other end of this. And thank you for being here. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Okay. All right. Much love. Bye-bye.